Batman 2 might not come out to the end or even 2028.
God damn.
Yes, you heard that right. Warner Brothers strikes again by secretly canceling a show and moving on without a press release. We did some digging and discovered that it's not just a regular cancellation. Something darker is going on between James Gunn and the studio. We've got the scoop. James Gunn drops bombshell message about Batman 2. James Gunn is going viral following his recent comments about Batman 2. After years of waiting with nothing but radio silence, he threw Matt Reeves under the bus. Fans are struggling to come to terms with the fact that Batman the 2nd of May never hit the scenes, but this is something we all should have seen coming. Let's start at the exact moment this whole thing unraveled. Dune 3. In a surprise casting twist that sent shockwaves through both the sci-fi and superhero fandoms, Robert Pattinson was confirmed to star in Dune 3. That might seem like a non-story at first, until you realize Dune 3 is shooting from mid-2025 through the end of the year. That means there is zero, and I mean zero, availability for Pattinson to film the Batman 2 before early 2026 at the absolute earliest, which pushes a release to 2027 or 2028. Now let me ask you something. What kind of major blockbuster gets a 6-year gap between sequels? You guessed it, a canceled one. And that's not just a theory. On a live stream watched by thousands of hardcore DC fans, a panelist laid it out in brutal honesty.
Batman 2 might not come out to the end or even 2028. Well, this is all for the birds. I think it's canceled. I think the Batman 2 is not coming. I think that the whole thing is going to get shelved.
It's not just speculation. It's a resignation, a white flag from the insiders who've kept the DC flame burning for years. But there's an even darker twist to this saga. According to insiders close to the production, Matt Reeves, the brilliant mind behind the Batman's gritty, noir-infused reboot, has effectively been sidelined. The reports suggest that James Gunn and Peter Safran have seized full control of the DC creative vision under Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav. This means that Reeves's carefully constructed Batman universe is now seen as excess baggage. And if you think that's an exaggeration, just listen to what was said.
Matt Reeves is gone. The Batman 2 should be scrapped and canceled.
Let that sink in. The same Matt Reeves who pulled off one of the boldest superhero reboots in recent memory is being quietly phased out. And the Batman 2? It's being treated like a liability, not a crown jewel. So where does that leave Robert Pattinson? Abandoned, unanchored, and ultimately uninterested. Insiders close to Pattinson's team allegedly told industry sources that the actor felt burned out by the demands of playing Batman, particularly in a franchise with no clear direction, no scheduled filming start, and no script ready to go. It's no wonder he accepted the Dune 3 role so quickly, because for Pattinson, this wasn't just a casting opportunity, it was an escape route. But don't think this is just about one man's career choice. No, this is a symptom of something far worse. A studio so disorganized, so fractured, and so obsessed with rebooting its own reboots, that it's now burning through stars and directors like kindling. And the hypocrisy? It's staggering. Let's rewind to a red carpet interview where Pattinson, months ago, hinted at something big happening behind the scenes with Reeves.
And Matt Reeves finally got at me and told me about what's gonna happen with the Batman 2, and I'm really happy about what.
Happy? Excited? That sounds like a man gearing up to dive back into the Batmobile, right? Wrong. That same night, reports began circulating that Pattinson was actively pursuing other roles outside of DC. Just weeks later, the Dune 3 casting went public, and James Gunn, he made no attempt to clarify Pattinson's status. No tweet, no statement, no apology to fans. The silence is deafening. And if you think Warner Brothers is going to come clean about this, think again, because they've done this before. Remember Batgirl? An entire finished film was shelved in 2022 for a tax write-off. That's how little these execs value the time, effort, and fan investment in these properties. So, is the Batman 2 canceled? Well, if it looks like a cancellation, sounds like a cancellation, and James Gunn's ignoring it like one, then yes. And here's the most infuriating part of all of this. They want you, the fans, to just forget, to move on, to get hyped for Brave and the Bold, or Superman Legacy, or whatever's next in Gunn's big DCU reset. But what about the millions of people who made the Batman a $770 million global success? What about the critics who hailed Pattinson's portrayal as a game changer? What about the kids who finally saw a Batman that felt real, broken, human? Think about how insane that is. Warner Brothers didn't issue any kind of official update on the project. No production timeline, no story hints, no teaser logo, nothing. Even fans on Reddit and film forums have started tracking what they call the Batman 2 blackout. And here's where it gets even worse. Insiders allege that Gunn and Safran's plan was always to pivot away away from Reeves' vision, despite Gunn promising that certain Elseworlds projects would continue, like Joker, Folie à Deux, and Reeves' Gotham spin-off. It's becoming clearer that only Joker has the institutional backing. Why? Because Joker is Oscar bait. Prestige, safe bet. Batman 2, it's a gritty, slow-burning crime thriller sequel with no guaranteed merchandise tie-ins. A creative risk. And Gunn's new DCU doesn't have room for risk. It needs control. And Gunn wants his own Batman. Remember, Gunn confirmed that a new Batman will lead the brave and the bold, a separate continuity from Reeves' version. This isn't a multiverse celebration, it's a hostile takeover. One fan commentator put it bluntly,
That's it for the Batman as far as I'm concerned. We're just waiting at this point.
"This is no longer about creative differences. This is about removal, erasure." And Matt Reeves? He's been radio silent. You know why? Because he's still technically under contract. According to a 2022 report, Reeves signed a multi-year production deal with Warner Brothers Discovery. But that deal doesn't guarantee creative control. It just ensures he develops content for them, not that they'll make it. So while Gunn restructures the entire DC timeline, Reeves is trapped in a creative purgatory. And Pattinson? He saw the writing on the wall. He chose Dune 3. And that's not just a lateral move. It's an upgrade. He's now part of Denis Villeneuve's universe, an auteur who respects actors, plans trilogies in advance, and doesn't cancel projects halfway through because of unified vision excuses. This isn't just a career move. This is a breakup, and it gets even more personal. Let's talk about the behind-the-scenes resentment that's been growing inside Warner Brothers ever since The Batman came out in 2022. Despite its $770 million global box office and critical acclaim, the film was repeatedly overshadowed by the studio's obsession with shared universes. Instead of investing in Reeves' Gotham and supporting characters like Colin Farrell's Penguin or Jeffrey Wright's Gordon, executives were redirecting resources toward the collapsing Snyderverse, reshooting The Flash, and greenlighting risky projects like Blue Beetle that would ultimately flop. And then came Zaslav. Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav's ruthless cost-cutting strategy included shelving fully completed films like Batgirl for tax reasons, canceling multiple CW properties, and laying off hundreds of staff. Is it really a surprise that Reeves' vision was deprioritized? Some fans theorized that Gunn waited for Pattinson to become unavailable, knowing full well that Dune 3 would interfere. That way, Gunn could cancel the Batman 2 without officially taking the blame. It's the perfect crime. Meanwhile, fans are being gaslit. Warner Brothers refuses to release an official cancellation notice, likely hoping the fan base will forget and redirect their energy to the new Batman in Brave and the Bold. But here's the problem. And the studio? They're throwing that away like it never mattered. We're not done yet. Pattinson's excitement, it's gone. Listen again.
For his lack of a better term, pain and suffering for the Batman, he deserved it.
What started as a bold reimagining of Gotham City, led by two artists who genuinely cared about the material, has been reduced to corporate roadkill. James Gunn may be steering the ship now, but he's doing so over the broken bones of better storytellers. And fans, we're expected to clap, to move on, to pretend this never happened, but we won't. Because Pattinson's Batman mattered, and the Batman 2 being canceled isn't just a scheduling conflict, it's a betrayal. A betrayal of the fans who believed in a darker, deeper Gotham. A betrayal of Matt Reeves' genius, and a betrayal of Robert Pattinson, who gave his all, only to be erased by a reboot-happy regime more concerned with control than craft. So let this video be the obituary Warner Brothers refuses to write. The Batman 2 is dead, and it didn't die a natural death. It was murdered. The next Batman. James Gunn has already confirmed that his Batman, not Pattinson, is coming soon. And if you've been paying attention to the industry, it's obvious what's happening. Gunn's Batman is designed to overwrite Reeves. He doesn't just want a separate continuity, he wants a replacement. As one commentator puts it,
That's what we need to be waiting for. The Brave and the Bold Batman that we've been waiting for.
so where does that leave Robert Pattinson? He's not on break. He's not waiting on a script. He's done, and the industry knows it. Multiple sources, including The Direct and Deadline, have acknowledged that Pattinson's casting in Dune 3 effectively removes him from the Batman timeline. The timelines simply don't align. And even if they did, would he still want to return? Pattinson was never the studio's ideal Batman. He didn't bulk up. He didn't smile for the cameras. He didn't sell toys or play the game. He gave them something raw, something real. And Warner Brothers couldn't monetize it fast enough, so they chose not to. Now let's talk about Matt Reeves, because his silence in all of this is deafening. A director once heralded as the savior of the Batverse hasn't posted a single meaningful update about the Batman 2 in over a year. That's not a delay. That's abandonment. In fact, his only ongoing project is the HBO Max Penguin spin-off, which insiders now say is likely to be the last remaining trace of his Gotham universe. You want brutal honesty? Here it is. The Batman 2 was too artistic, too cerebral, too niche, and Warner Brothers is done gambling. That's the real reason. Not Pattinson's availability, not Gunn's new vision, just plain old corporate cowardice. And if you think this pattern ends here, it doesn't. Warner Brothers is burning bridges across the board. The Snyderverse, dead dead, Cavill, gone, Gal Gadot, ghosted. Even Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson got thrown under the bus. No one is safe. So what happens to us? The fans? We're the collateral damage. Again, we were promised a Batman trilogy. We were promised continuity. We were promised respect. And what did we get? A ghosted franchise, a disappearing cast, and a rebooted timeline run by a man who still can't stop referencing his old Guardians of the Galaxy playlists. You want one more example of how insulting this is? Go back and watch The Batman. Look at the final scene. Listen to the tone. Feel the promise of a story just beginning. That's the current narrative. That's the messaging. That's the future. It's a clean slate, but a bloody one. A fresh start, but with no soul. And unless fans speak up loudly, this will be the new normal. Creative passion erased, artists pushed out, and visionary projects discarded like last year's iPhone. So what can we do? We can refuse to forget. We can refuse to move on. We can hold Warner Brothers accountable, demand a formal statement, demand transparency, because at the very least, the people who poured their hearts into the Batman deserve that. Robert Pattinson gave us something unforgettable. Matt Reeves redefined Gotham for a new generation, and The Batman 2 could have been a masterpiece. But now, it's just a memory, and maybe that's the most haunting ending of all. There's a deeper, messier, and far more sinister narrative, one that nobody in the entertainment press wants to talk about, one that Warner Brothers will never put in a press release. Because this isn't just about The Batman 2 being canceled, it's about how Warner Bros. Is systematically gutting its creative soul in favor of corporate consolidation, and how that scorched earth policy is alienating its most talented creators, abandoning loyal fan bases, and creating a climate of fear inside the walls of DC Studios. And it all started long before Gunn came into the picture. Let's take you back years before The Batman hit theaters. In 2017, after the lukewarm reception of Justice League, Warner Brothers made a quiet, internal decision: fracture the DC universe. At the time, they believed the key to survival wasn't unity, it was diversification. This gave rise to what insiders now call the portfolio strategy, a system of allowing multiple DC storylines to exist in parallel. Reeves' The Batman was one of them. So was Joker. Even The Flash was considered part of this creative sandbox. This strategy worked, briefly. Joker won Oscars. The Batman brought prestige. DC started looking like it had found its groove. But then came the Warner Brothers Discovery merger. When David Zaslav took the reins, he made it very clear: too many unfocused projects were costing the studio too much money without offering a clear return. His solution? Cut costs, consolidate creative control, reset everything. That's why Batgirl was axed. That's why Wonder Woman 3 was killed mid-development. That's why Henry Cavill's return as Superman was announced and then immediately rescinded. And that's why The Batman 2 was always a sitting duck. Even though Reeves had already started outlining the sequel, possibly even drafted early scripts, he was doing so without a clear green light. And according to multiple reports, Warner Brothers executives were intentionally dragging their feet on approving the film's pre-production. They had one goal: make Gunn's reboot the centerpiece. Here's a question no one's asking: why hasn't Warner Bros. Confirmed or denied the status of The Batman 2 even after all these reports, delays, and cast changes? Because they're running out the clock. They want you, the fans, to give up before they have to deliver bad news. That way there's no backlash, no headlines, no accountability. But we're not giving up. We're connecting the dots. Let's look at something strange. Why has there been no casting news, no villain reveal, not even a logo for The Batman 2, nearly 3 years after the first film released? Because the project was never in motion. Compare that to Joker, Folie à Deux, which received full casting, promotion, teaser material, and a release date, all within a year of greenlighting. Meanwhile, The Batman 2 remains in limbo. That's not development, that's stalling. And here's the real danger: the longer Warner Brothers stalls, the more outdated The Batman becomes in the eyes of execs. Think about it: by the time The Batman 2 could realistically release, it would be 2028. That's 6 years after the first film. You really think studio heads will greenlight a billion-dollar sequel to a film from 2022 in 2028? They won't. And that's the point. They're killing it by delay. And don't forget, Robert Pattinson isn't getting younger. He'll be 41 by the time The Batman 2 could realistically film and release. And while that's not old, it's out of step with the long-term franchise vision Gunn has already mapped out for his Batman in The Brave and the Bold, a younger, fresher Batman who can share the screen with Damian Wayne and other sidekicks in a sprawling, decade-long narrative. Let's also talk about something deeply suspicious: Warner Brothers Dawamdi. Approach to creators under contract. Take J.J. Abrams. He signed a massive $250 million deal with Warner Brothers for original DC projects. Where are they now? Dead in development hell. The Constantine reboot? Shelved. The Zatanna project? Cancelled. Justice League Dark? Ghosted. The studio never officially pulled the plug, but they stopped returning calls. Sound familiar? This is the exact same playbook being used on Matt Reeves. Tie up your creative talent with exclusive deals, then quietly isolate them when their vision doesn't align with the new regime. It's not just disrespectful, it's deliberate erasure. And while Gunn and Safran make headlines, Reeves is left in the shadows. His Penguin show, while technically still in post-production, is no longer being used as a launching pad for the Batman 2. Instead, it's been repositioned as a standalone product. Even the tone of promotional materials reflects this. No references to Pattinson's Batman, no hints at a continuing story. They're rewriting the narrative in real time, gaslighting us into believing this was always the plan, but it wasn't. The Batman 2 was supposed to be darker, meaner, more psychological. Insiders hinted that the villain would be either Hush or Mr. Freeze, iconic characters perfect for Reeves' grounded tone. Fan speculation exploded online with concept art, pitch videos, and detailed Reddit threads mapping out sequel arcs. All of that passion, that energy, flushed, forgotten. Now, we're being told to wait for another Bruce Wayne to show up, this time with a kid in a cape that's comic accurate, as if accuracy is what we lost. We didn't lose a costume. We lost an entire interpretation of Batman that felt fresh, human, and unfiltered. And here's a truth Warner Brothers won't say out loud. The Batman was the best-reviewed DC movie of the last decade. It holds an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, with fans and critics alike praising its artistry, tone, and performances. So why kill it? Because it didn't fit the spreadsheet. Because it didn't sell toys fast enough. Because it wasn't colorful, or quippy, or easy to market in China. Because it was about grief, paranoia, and powerlessness, themes that executives don't know how to monetize. And for all the talk about letting filmmakers lead, Gunn and Safran's DC Studios is shaping up to be one of the most top-down, micromanaged creative hubs in modern Hollywood. It's a reboot machine, a universe built on the ashes of better ideas, better directors, better stories. So what can we take from this? That this isn't just the end of the Batman 2, it's the end of an era. The era where auteur directors like Reeves could thrive inside massive IP systems. The era where superhero films didn't all look and feel the same. The era where fandom had power, but that power is fading, unless we speak up, because they've already deleted Batgirl. They ghosted Cavill, they lied to Gal, and now they've canceled Pattinson's Batman without even saying the words. We won't let them do it silently. Let this video stand as a monument to what was lost, and let this be your call to arms. Make noise, comment, retweet, demand answers, because if we don't, then one by one, our favorite stories will be erased without explanation, and all we'll be left with are marketing slogans, rebooted timelines, and Batmen we barely recognize. The Batman we deserved is gone, and unfortunately, this is not the first time the studio is breaking our heats like this. Warner Brothers, Cemetery of Canceled Promises. Let's not pretend this is an isolated case. The Batman 2 being silently canceled is outrageous, but it's not unprecedented. In fact, it's part of a much larger pattern, a disturbing legacy of broken promises, vanished films, and scorched creative earth inside Warner Brothers Discovery. For years now, the studio has made a habit of building hype, securing talent, even shooting entire projects, only to abandon them in a heartbeat when the spreadsheets don't add up. Arguably the most shocking example in recent memory. In 2022, Batgirl, starring Leslie Grace, directed by Adel El Arbi and Bilal Fallah, and featuring the return of Michael Keaton as Batman, was nearly completed. Post-production was well underway. The film had a reported budget of $90 million, was planned for release on HBO Max, and had already begun internal test screenings. Then, boom, canceled, without warning, without apology, without so much as a trailer released to the public. Why? Because Warner Brothers Discovery had just undergone a corporate merger. CEO David Zaslav reportedly saw the film as a non-event that wouldn't yield a proper return on investment, so they killed it for a tax write-off. Let that sink in. They erased a fully shot, nearly finished DC film for accounting, and then they made sure we'd never see it. Not on streaming, not in theaters, not even on bootleg DVDs. The directors were locked out of the editing room. The cast was blindsided. Michael Keaton, Brendan Fraser, both robbed of their returns to iconic roles. Sound familiar? Because the Batman 2's silence is a spiritual sequel to Batgirl's erasure. Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman franchise was once the crown jewel of the DCEU. The first film was a critical and commercial success, and even though Wonder Woman 1984 was divisive, Wonder Woman 3 was officially greenlit in 2021, with Jenkins and Gal Gadot set to return. Then everything changed. Following the appointment of James Gunn and Peter Safran, Warner Brothers reversed course. According to reports from The Hollywood Reporter, the script for Wonder Woman 3 didn't fit with the new DCU vision, and was outright rejected. Jenkins offered to reshape the story, but Gunn allegedly refused to budge. Within weeks, Gal Gadot was out. Jenkins walked away, and one of the most bankable female-led superhero trilogies in history was gone. No apology, no closure, just deleted. The Flash was positioned as a reset button for the DCEU. Despite its troubled star, endless reshoots, and ballooning budget, Warner Brothers hyped the film as essential, the linchpin of the multiverse. Michael Keaton returned. Ben Affleck had scenes. There was even talk of spinning off Sasha Calle's Supergirl. Then it bombed. And not just a little. The Flash was a historic disaster, earning only $270 million globally against $300 $200+ million break-even point. The studio responded with silence. The sequel, once quietly greenlit pre-release, was instantly shelved post-release. Even the character of Supergirl, introduced with intention for a solo outing, was quietly phased out. Once again, no formal cancellation, just erased from memory. Remember when Warner Bros. Signed J.J. Abrams to a $250 million deal in 2019? So do we. Abrams was supposed to lead a new wave of DC storytelling under his Bad Robot banner, bringing to life edgier, mystical, and genre-bending properties. Zatanna was in development. Justice League Dark was being mapped out. There were rumblings of Constantine, Madame Xanadu, Deadman, and then nothing. One by one, those projects were shelved. Some quietly. Others got trade articles with vague, creative differences language. But they all shared one thing in common. No start date, no casting, no actual movement. Warner Brothers shelved them without fanfare, the same way they're doing the Batman 2. This one hurts. For over a decade, DC promised fans a new Green Lantern film. First, it was Hal Jordan. Then it became a buddy cop version with Jon Stewart and Guy Gardner. Later, it morphed into a high-concept HBO Max series with a massive budget. The latest iteration, Lanterns, a true detective-style series for Max, is now under James Gunn's DCU slate. But fans know better, because Green Lantern Corps has been coming soon since 2014. And in every version, it's been quietly deprioritized, restructured, or canceled, all without Warner Brothers ever admitting it failed to execute. If that isn't a textbook pattern of mismanagement, I don't know what is. Warner Brothers doesn't cancel projects the way studios used to. They ghost them. They slowly let the silence spread until even the creators give up. No press release, no transparency, just creative death by neglect. The people most affected? Not the executives. It's the actors who rearrange their schedules for roles that never come, the directors, whose reputations are tied to vaporware, and the fans, who invest years into stories that are then treated like discarded drafts. What happened to the Batman 2 isn't just about a missed sequel. It's about the chilling message being sent across Hollywood. Your work is temporary. Your success means nothing. And we owe you no explanation. This is the real DC crisis, not on Infinite Earths, but inside the studio. We remember. We demand better. We remind Warner Brothers that audiences care deeply about continuity, creative vision, and follow-through. If Reeves and Pattinson's Batman had been given the freedom to grow, it could have been the Dark Knight of a new generation. Instead, it was buried, like Batgirl, Wonder Woman 3, Zatanna, and so many others. This isn't just a bad business strategy, it's a cultural erasure. But now, the truth is out, and we won't forget. Thanks for watching. Check out other cards on the screen.
I'm sorry. Why? Did you think I'm only half the Jeremy because I got ran over?
Jeremy Renner isn't just frustrated. He's calling out Disney, and he's not the only one. Behind the scenes, Marvel stars have been clashing with the studio, and the pressure is finally starting to show. Now, all eyes are on CEO Bob Iger, as the company faces growing backlash from its biggest names. From lawsuits to quiet rebellion, something's not right at the top, and Iger's job is at stake. In this video, I will be pulling back the curtains on what's really going on with Disney's leadership and its biggest stars. The Jeremy Renner controversy that started it all. At the center of this storm about the Disney CEO getting fired is none other than Jeremy Renner, the actor who's wielded Hawkeye's bow and arrow since his brief cameo in 2011's Thor. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the current controversy, let's rewind the clock to understand the full context of Renner's complicated relationship with Disney and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Renner's journey as Clint Barton hasn't always been smooth sailing. Back in 2016, during a Quanda session in London, he publicly revealed something rather shocking. During the filming of 2012's The Avengers, he was actually lobbying for his character to be killed off. Feeling frustrated with Hawkeye's limited role, especially after being hypnotized by Loki early in the film, Renner was genuinely dissatisfied and frustrated with how his character was being utilized. The actor revealed that his frustration manifested in some pretty dramatic on-set behavior. He reportedly would fake heart attacks during filming, telling director Joss Whedon, "If you just want to kick me out of this movie, Daddy's gonna be having a heart attack." It seemed like Renner was genuinely contemplating an exit from the franchise before it had truly begun for his character. Fast forward to 2015, and Renner found himself embroiled in another controversy during the press tour for Avengers: Age of Ultron. When asked about fans shipping Black Widow with different Avengers, Renner called Scarlett Johansson's character a slut, and his co-star Chris Evans added that she was a complete whore. The comments, while intended as humor, sparked significant backlash on social media, with fans and critics accusing both actors of sexism. Both Renner and Evans eventually issued apologies, with Renner describing his remarks as tasteless and juvenile. However, when he appeared on Conan to discuss the incident, he seemed less than contrite, saying, "I got in a lot of internet trouble. I guess that's a thing now you can get in." His somewhat flippant response only added fuel to the fire. Despite these bumps in the road, Renner's role in the MCU continued to expand, culminating in his own Disney Plus series, Hawkeye, which premiered in 2021. The show paired him with Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop and was generally well received by fans and critics alike. It seemed like Renner had finally found his footing as Hawkeye, and the character had received the development he deserved. But then, tragedy struck on New Year's Day 2023. In a life-altering incident that made headlines worldwide, Renner was involved in a catastrophic accident involving a 330-pound piston bully snow groomer at his Lake Tahoe, Nevada home. The details of the accident are nothing short of horrifying. Renner was attempting to stop the snowplow from sliding toward his nephew when he failed to engage the parking brake or disengage the steel tracks. As he tried to climb back into the cab, he was pulled under the moving tracks and run over by the massive vehicle. The injuries Renner sustained were devastating. 38 broken bones, including 14 rib fractures, a broken cheekbone, and a shattered eye socket. He also suffered a collapsed lung, a pierced liver, and significant facial and chest injuries. His left eyeball was even dislodged. Renner required multiple surgeries and spent over 2 weeks in intensive care. In his memoir, My Next Breath, he revealed that his heart rate slowed to the point of death during the 30 minutes he lay on the ice, describing it as the moment he died before being revived. Amazingly, Renner's recovery progressed well enough that by April 2023, just a few months after the accident, he was able to attend the premiere of his Disney Plus series, Renovations. By January 2025, marking the second anniversary of the accident, Renner expressed gratitude to the medical staff, first responders, and his nephew, acknowledging the army of people who helped him survive this horrific ordeal. Given all that Renner had been through, you might think that Disney would be eager to work with him again once he felt ready to return to acting. And indeed, it seems they were, but not on terms that the actor found acceptable. In a bombshell interview with High Performance Podcast in May 2025, Renner revealed something that has set off this current firestorm of controversy. According to the actor, Disney approached him about returning for a second season of Hawkeye, but there was a catch. They were only offering him half of what he made for season 1.
They asked me to do a season 2, and they offered me half the money. I'm like, wow, it's going to take me twice the amount of work for half the amount of money. And so 8 months of my time, essentially, and to do it for half the amount.
Renner was understandably taken aback by this offer, especially considering that he was still recovering from his near-fatal accident. In the interview, he pointedly questioned whether Disney's reduced offer was somehow related to his injuries.
I'm sorry. Why? Did you think I'm only half the Jeremy because I got ran over?
The actor made it clear that he wasn't seeking an increase in pay. He simply expected to be compensated at the same rate as before.
And we didn't see eye to eye on that. And sadly, and I still love the character, I still love to do it, but I had to defend myself. I didn't ask for any more money, mind you, right? It just paid me what I made the first season.
What makes this situation even more interesting is that Renner specifically pointed out that the issue wasn't with Marvel Studios itself, but rather with Disney's financial decision makers.
Maybe that's why you want to pay me half of what I made on the first season? And this is not Marvel, mind you. This is like just Disney, not even really Disney. It's just the penny pinchers, the accountants. I told them to go fly a kite. I mean, just at the insult offer.
The actor's frustration is palpable, and it's not hard to understand why. After surviving an accident that nearly claimed his life and working hard through an extensive rehabilitation process, being offered half his previous salary for what he described as twice the amount of work feels like a slap in the face. Renner noted that the role would require an 8-month commitment, making the reduced pay even more unacceptable. While Renner expressed disappointment about the situation, he also found a silver lining, suggesting that perhaps his body would thank him for not taking on the demanding role so soon after his recovery.
So it's a little disheartening that didn't happen, but that's fine. I'm happy to let that go because my body's probably thanking me, time and time again that I'm not doing it right now. But we'll see.
Renner's revelation has sparked significant backlash against Disney on social media. On X, posts highlighting Disney's lowball offer to Renner after his accident have gained significant traction, with many fans expressing support for the actor and criticism of Disney's approach to talent compensation. The general sentiment online seems to be one of disappointment in Disney for what many perceive as disrespectful treatment of an original Avenger who has been with the franchise since nearly the beginning. This controversy is particularly noteworthy because it's not the first time Disney has faced backlash over its compensation practices for MCU stars. Now, with Renner's revelation about his Hawkeye Season 2 offer, it seems these tensions are far from resolved. The question becomes, is this latest controversy with Jeremy Renner just an isolated incident, or part of a broader pattern of discontent among Marvel stars that could spell trouble for Disney CEO Bob Iger? To answer that, we need to examine how other Avengers actors have been expressing their feelings about Disney's management in recent years, and whether there's a growing momentum of dissatisfaction that could potentially lead to major changes at the top of the Disney hierarchy. As of May 2025, there has been no official confirmation from Disney or Marvel Studios regarding a second season. However, some reports and industry insiders have speculated that filming might begin in fall 2025, with a potential release in late 2026 or early 2027. But these claims lack official corroboration. Renner's public statements indicate that he is not currently involved in the project, and his rejection of the initial offer suggests that any future season would require renegotiation. Some reports have speculated that Haley Steinfeld could return as Kate Bishop, potentially leading the series without Renner, but without an official statement from Disney, the project's status remains uncertain. What is clear, however, is that Renner's story has struck a chord with fans and industry insiders alike, raising questions about how Disney values its talent, particularly those who have been integral to building the MCU into the global phenomenon it is today. Bob Iger's fall from grace, how Disney's CEO lost the public's trust. When Bob Iger returned as Disney's CEO in November 2022, following the abrupt dismissal of his successor Bob Chapek, the public response was overwhelmingly positive. Chapek's tenure had been marred by PR backlashes, a political battle with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis over the Don't Say Gay bill, and unpopular operational changes like Disney Genie Plus and the park reservation systems. Social media platforms erupted with relief and celebration at the news of Iger's return, with thousands of posts and memes expressing joy at the leadership change. One ex-user referenced Chapek's infamous remark about adults not wanting animated movies, while another shared videos of Disney adults reacting positively to the news. Some even compared Iger to Thanos in a positive way, referencing the impact of his Marvel acquisition. The initial sentiment was clear. Iger's return was viewed as a return to stability and excellence after what many perceived as a chaotic period under Chapek. After all, Iger's previous 15-year tenure as CEO had been marked by significant acquisitions, including Lucasfilm, Pixar, and Marvel Studios, moves that transformed Disney into an entertainment powerhouse. Many fans saw this era as a golden age for the company and had high hopes that Iger's return would signal a similar period of prosperity and innovation. However, this honeymoon period didn't last long. By mid-2023, fan sentiment toward Iger had begun to sour dramatically. One of the major turning points came during the Writers Guild of America, WGA, and Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, SAG-AFTRA, strikes, which paralyzed much of Hollywood in 2023. Iger's comments about the strikes were widely perceived as tone-deaf and elitist. He described the writers' and actors' demands as not realistic and labeled the strikes as disruptive, remarks that sparked significant backlash, especially given his own substantial compensation. According to Wikipedia, Iger's annual salary was approximately $27 million, a stark contrast to the average writer's salary of around $65,000 per year. On social media, fans expressed their anger, with many showing sympathy for the striking writers and actors while criticizing Iger's enormous pay disparity. On Reddit, particularly in the R Out of the Loop thread titled, "What's the deal with people suddenly hating Bob Iger recently?" users shared their frustration with Iger's stance. One ex-user posted a particularly damning comparison, highlighting the difference between Disney's actions against strikers and Universal's approach, further fueling the growing discontent with Iger's leadership. But the strikes were just one factor in Iger's declining popularity. His financial decisions have also drawn significant criticism. Fans on forums like Discords noted Iger's role in leaving Disney with substantial debt, primarily from investments in the Disney Plus streaming platform. There was also considerable backlash when news broke that Disney, under Iger's leadership, was looking to sell off assets like ABC, FX, and Freeform. Adding to the image problem was the revelation that during the COVID-19 pandemic, Iger had forfeited his $3 million chairman salary, but kept his $46 million CEO compensation, a move many saw as disingenuous at best. These decisions contributed to a growing perception that Iger prioritized profits over people, with comments on Reddit going so far as to label him a scumbag CEO. The issues didn't stop there. Despite Iger's return, many fans felt that Disney's theme parks and content quality hadn't improved as hoped. A Los Angeles Times article noted ongoing fan fury over theme park price hikes and other challenges that continued under Iger's second tenure. The failure of high-profile projects like the Star Wars Hotel, mentioned in an Inside the Magic article, only added to the growing frustration. By late 2023, online forums reflected a mix of disappointment and calls for change. A Disboards post linked to a Business Insider article highlighting low staff morale, layoffs of 7,000 people, and cost cuts of $5.5 billion, all of which likely influenced fan sentiment. Comments on the forum included hopes for a turnaround, but also uncertainty, with one fan stating, "Disney needs to decide if it wants to be a social activist or a profitable company," reflecting the polarization in views about the company's direction. But perhaps most troubling for Iger has been Disney's handling of its live-action Snow White remake, which was released on March 21, 2025. The film, which cost over $270 million to produce, has been a focal point of controversy on multiple fronts, from casting decisions to story changes and the political views of its stars. The casting controversy began in June 2021, when Rachel Zegler, a Latina actress, was cast as Snow White. This decision led to racist backlash from some critics who argued she didn't fit the traditional image of the character, described as having skin as white as snow. Zegler defended her casting, emphasizing the importance of representation, but the debate continued to simmer. In 2023, she even pleaded on X to avoid being tagged in discourse about the role. Then there was the issue of how the film would portray the Seven Dwarfs. In January 2022, Peter Dinklage criticized the remake for its portrayal of dwarfs, calling it backwards, despite the progressive casting of Zegler. Disney responded by saying they would consult with the dwarfism community to avoid stereotypes, but this led to further complications. Dylan Postal criticized Dinklage for potentially taking jobs away from actors with dwarfism. And in February 2025, Disney revealed that only Martin Kleba, an actor with dwarfism, would be among the 7 CGI dwarfs. This decision was criticized by Ali Chapman for excluding other little people. The controversies continued with Zegler's comments about the original 1937 film. In September 2022, she called the original Snow White outdated and criticized the love story as weird, leading to backlash from fans and David Hale Hand, son of the original director, who called the remake a disgrace. This led to the Daily Wire announcing a competing Snow White adaptation focusing on timeless values. Further complicating matters were on-set photos from July 2023 showing magical creatures instead of dwarfs, causing confusion. Disney clarified they were fake or stand-ins, but Postal expressed disappointment, highlighting missed opportunities for actors with dwarfism. The political views of the film's stars also became a flashpoint. Gal Gadot's pro-Israel stance following the October 7, 2023, Hamas attacks led to boycott calls, while Zegler reaffirmed her pro-Palestine stance, creating tension between the co-stars. Media outlets like Newsweek highlighted these tensions, adding another layer of controversy to the project. In November 2024, Zegler criticized Trump's re-election, calling for no peace for his supporters, which led to calls for a boycott from MAGA supporters. She later apologized on Instagram after Megyn Kelly demanded Disney fire her. The fallout from these controversies was significant. Disney scaled back the film's premiere, limiting it to photographers and house interviewers. While Kleba claimed this was due to the Ziegler controversy, sources downplayed tensions. Nonetheless, the film opened to mixed reviews and underwhelming box office projections of $45 million to $55 million, lagging behind other Disney remakes. There's also been a major legal controversy that has tarnished Disney's image under Iger's leadership. In October 2023, a patron at Walt Disney World Resort died from a severe allergic reaction after eating at a restaurant on the property, leading to a wrongful death lawsuit filed in February 2024 by her husband, alleging negligence. The incident involved Dr. Kanokporn Tangswan, who had severe dairy and nut allergies, and allegedly chose the restaurant due to assurances it could accommodate her needs. Disney initially sought to dismiss the case by invoking arbitration clauses from the husband's 2019 Disney Plus free trial agreement, arguing it extended to all disputes with Disney affiliates. This move was widely criticized as surreal. Following the backlash, Disney reversed course in August 2024, with Josh D'Amaro stating, "At Disney, we strive to put humanity above all other considerations," and agreed to waive arbitration. The case is now set for court, with a hearing initially scheduled for October 2nd, 2024, but canceled after Disney's reversal. As of May 2025, the lawsuit remains ongoing, raising questions about arbitration clause, enforceability. Adding to Disney's woes under Iger's leadership have been operational controversies, particularly around price increases and changes to guest services. Disney World has implemented significant price hikes for 2025 tickets, increasing by $5 to $10 for most dates from January through October, with peak season prices for November and December hitting new record highs. Several dining options have also seen increases, with character meals like Crystal Palace rising to $52 per adult for breakfast, up from $48, and $62 for lunch, dinner, up from $61. In 2024, Disney overhauled the Disability Access Service (DAS) program, intended for guests with developmental disabilities, drawing backlash for being less accommodating. To offset some of these costs, Disney introduced discounts like free water park tickets for on-site hotel guests in 2025, but this hasn't fully addressed the concerns about affordability. Reports indicate that there have been internal discussions at Disney about the high prices, with some executives worrying that the company has reached affordability limits for middle-class Americans. Upon his return as CEO, Iger reportedly asked for strategies to win back fans, including freezing ticket increases, but the continued price hikes suggest these concerns haven't translated into meaningful policy changes. One of the most significant political controversies during Iger's second tenure has been Disney's feud with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis over the Parental Rights in Education Bill, commonly known as the Don't Say Gay Bill. This legislation, signed into law in March 2022 before Iger's return, prohibited classroom instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity in kindergarten through third grade in Florida public schools. While the initial controversy began under former CEO Bob Chapek, it escalated into 2023 and 2024. Disney initially faced internal and external backlash for remaining silent on the bill, with employees staging walkouts and protests. After public pressure, Disney publicly opposed the bill, calling for its repeal, which led to a direct confrontation with DeSantis. In April 2022, DeSantis signed a bill to dissolve Disney's special tax district, the Reedy Creek Improvement District, which had allowed Disney to self-govern its operations in Florida. This move was widely interpreted as retaliation for Disney's stance, sparking a legal battle that continued into 2024. Disney alleged retaliation for its free speech, while DeSantis countersued, claiming Disney was attempting to undermine state authority. However, on March 28, 2024, Disney and a board appointed by DeSantis settled their lawsuits, resolving the dispute over the district's control. The settlement made a last-minute agreement by Disney null and void, and allowed the board to work with Disney on updating the district's comprehensive plan. Disney committed to investing at least $30 billion over the next decade in its theme parks, including $17 billion in Orlando. While this settlement represented a resolution to the immediate legal battle, the reputational damage to Disney and the perception that the company had been outmaneuvered by DeSantis continued to linger, further contributing to the declining faith in Iger's leadership. All of these controversies have contributed to a growing sense that Iger's second tenure as Disney CEO has not lived up to the high expectations set when he returned in 2022. What was initially seen as a triumphant return to form for the company has instead become a period marked by controversy, financial struggles, and declining public trust. But has this discontent reached a level where Iger's position could actually be in jeopardy? Marvel's Civil War. Are other Avengers stars joining the rebellion against Disney? The Marvel Cinematic Universe has been the crown jewel of Disney's entertainment empire since the company acquired Marvel in 2009. The interconnected superhero franchise has generated billions at the box office and helped launch Disney Plus to streaming prominence. But behind the scenes, a different kind of Avengers story has been unfolding, one where the stars who helped build this juggernaut have increasingly found themselves at odds with the studio's decision-makers. While Jeremy Renner's recent salary dispute over Hawkeye Season 2 has grabbed headlines, he's far from the only Marvel actor to have voiced concerns about Disney's approach to talent management and creative decisions. In fact, looking at the past decade, we can see a pattern of tensions between the Avengers stars and the studio that has only intensified in recent years. One of the most significant disputes involves Scarlett Johansson, who played Natasha Romanoff Black Widow in the MCU for over a decade. In July 2021, Johansson filed a lawsuit against Disney in Los Angeles Superior Court, alleging breach of contract over the release strategy for Black Widow. The film was released simultaneously in theaters and on Disney Plus Premier Access, a decision Johansson claimed reduced her earnings, as her contract tied a significant portion of her compensation to box office this performance. Johansson's legal team argued that Disney's dual release strategy, motivated by the COVID-19 pandemic, siphoned potential theatergoers, costing her tens of millions in potential earnings. Disney responded aggressively, revealing her $20 million base salary and claiming she was being insensitive to the pandemic's impact, which only escalated the public nature of the dispute. The lawsuit was eventually settled in October 2021, with terms not disclosed. After the settlement, Johansson stated, "I am happy to have resolved our differences with Disney," and Disney's Alan Bergman expressed a desire for future collaborations, including a planned Tower of Terror project. Another MCU actor who has expressed frustration with the franchise is Chris Hemsworth, who portrays Thor. In 2023 and 2024 interviews, Hemsworth expressed dissatisfaction with his performance in Thor: Love and Thunder 2022, calling it too silly and feeling he became a parody of himself. While this was more of a creative self-critique than a direct controversy with Disney, it reflected growing concerns about the direction of certain MCU characters and narratives. In a later interview with Vanity Fair, Hemsworth expanded on his frustrations with the Marvel formula, suggesting that the studio's approach had become too rigid and predictable. While he didn't directly criticize Disney's management, his comments added to the sense that even the franchise's biggest stars were becoming disenchanted with the creative decisions being made. More recently, in January 2025, Anthony Mackie, who took on the role of Sam Wilson, Captain America, following The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, found himself at the center of a controversy during the promotional tour for Captain America: Brave New World in Rome. Mackie stated, "For me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term America should be one of those representations," emphasizing values like honor, dignity, and integrity as universal rather than nationally specific. These comments drew significant backlash, particularly from conservative groups, who interpreted them as unpatriotic. Social media saw calls for a boycott, with some labeling the film woke garbage. Facing the backlash, Mackie clarified his stance on Instagram stories, stating, "Let me be clear about this. I'm a proud American, and taking on the shield of a hero like Cap is the honor of a lifetime. I have the utmost respect for those who serve and have served our country. Cap has universal characteristics that people all over the world can relate to." The film's director, Julius Ona, also defended Mackie, telling Variety that the comments were misinterpreted, emphasizing themes of community and empathy in the film, aligning with Mackie's portrayal of Sam Wilson. But perhaps one of the most telling examples of the complicated relationship between Marvel actors and Disney can be found by looking back at Mark Ruffalo, who plays Bruce Banner, Hulk. Unlike many of his fellow Avengers, Ruffalo has never received a solo Hulk film, despite being a fan favorite. This isn't due to lack of interest from the actor or audiences, but rather because of complex licensing issues between Marvel Studios and Universal Pictures. As reported by Hindustan Times, Universal Pictures still holds the distribution rights to any standalone Hulk films, which has prevented Disney from producing a Ruffalo-led Hulk movie. While this situation predates Iger's current tenure, it represents another instance where business decisions have impacted the creative and professional opportunities for Marvel stars, contributing to a sense that the actor's interests aren't always prioritized. Looking at these examples collectively, a pattern emerges. Marvel's stars have repeatedly found themselves at odds with Disney's business practices, creative decisions, and public relations strategies. While not every actor has directly criticized Bob Iger or called for his removal, the accumulation of these incidents creates an environment where talent feels undervalued or constrained, precisely the sentiment that Jeremy Renner expressed in his recent interview about the Hawkeye salary dispute. But is there any evidence that these various controversies could actually lead to Iger's removal as CEO? When Iger returned as CEO in November 2022, it was initially described as a temporary arrangement, with the intention of finding a permanent successor within 2 years. However, in July 2023, Disney announced that Iger had agreed to extend his contract through December 31st, 2026, giving him more time to navigate the company through various challenges and groom a successor. In January 2025, Disney appointed James Gorman, the former CEO of Morgan Stanley, as chairman of the board, with plans to announce Iger's replacement as CEO in early 2026. This timeline suggests that Disney is committed to an orderly transition of power, rather than an abrupt dismissal of Iger. Furthermore, while Iger has certainly faced criticism, there's no evidence of a coordinated effort among Marvel stars or other stakeholders to have him removed. The controversies we've examined, including Renner's salary dispute, seem to be isolated incidents rather than part of a larger campaign against Iger's leadership. It's also worth noting that Iger's compensation for 2024 was reported to be $41 million in January 2025, suggesting that the Disney board still has confidence in his leadership despite the various controversies. This represents a significant increase from his previous compensation package, further indicating that his position is not immediately threatened. That said, the cumulative impact of these controversies could certainly influence Disney's long-term leadership plans, especially if they begin to affect the company's bottom line or cause high-profile talent to seek opportunities elsewhere. The entertainment industry is heavily reliant on relationships and reputation, and a perception that Disney doesn't treat its stars fairly could make it harder for the company to attract and retain top talent in the future. As for the specific issue of Jeremy Renner and Hawkeye Season 2, it's unclear how this will ultimately be resolved. Disney has not publicly responded to Renner's claims about the salary offer, although a Disney insider reportedly disputed his account, according to The Hollywood Reporter. Given the public backlash, it's possible that Disney might reconsider its approach and come back with a more favorable offer, especially if they believe Hawkeye Season 2 has significant commercial potential. But for now, all of this remains speculative. While the controversies we've examined certainly paint a picture of growing discontent with Disney's leadership under Iger, there's no concrete evidence that his position is in imminent danger or that a coordinated rebellion of Marvel stars is underway. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.